What up, everyone? DJ Anubis.
And DJ Neko.
Here with our good friend and fellow podcaster, KLE, Kevin Lambert. Thank you for joining us again for another episode of the Cinematic Synergy. This time we did A Wounded Fawn, now streaming on Shudder. Director is Travis Stevens, who's also the one that did Jacob's Wife, which we did enjoy a lot. Mm-hmm. Cast is Sarah Lind, Josh Rubin, and Malin Sarr. And, of course, I'm just going to throw in the Red Owl. He's also making an appearance in this.
The Red Owl.
The Red Owl.
The Red Owl.
Plot is, a serial killer brings an unsuspecting new victim on a weekend getaway to add another body to his ever-growing count. She's buying into his fall charms, and he's eagerly lusting for blood. What could possibly go wrong?
I'll start with what could possibly go wrong. This woman is dumb.
She is very dumb.
She didn't know the guy at all. And she's like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to go have sex this weekend with some dude I just met.
Didn't she just get out of a relationship, abusive relationship, in fact?
Yeah, she's been going to her therapist and everything. And it is a perfect setup for a horror movie.
Yeah, it definitely is. Like, the fact that you mentioned she didn't even know this person. And she just... It's all right if you go to see a friend's party or you're out in the club and you hook up with some guy, but you don't go to the middle of the woods with a complete stranger that is literally just...
She was literally picking out lingerie. We're like, whoa, this is fast. What's going on here?
Right?
Like, I know, just crazy. She clearly hasn't been laid in a long time.
Exactly.
So
Josh Rubin's character, who is our serial killer, we learn early on that he's very into like art, and there's like these mythological pieces that I guess they were like auctioneers or they were buyers. So,
they're buyers for other people.
Yeah, so early in the film, he's there and he's trying to buy this particular item, but I think he's outbid by another woman. Whom later he shows up and is trying to talk to her and woo her in his way. And she, at first, I guess,
also dumb.
Well, he came and said that his buyer was willing to pay more than what it was worth, I guess. So he was trying to like.
I think he said that his buyer was willing to pay her and her buyer double what they had paid.
Right.
And then
Yes.
And then she actually said he would give her an extra something like 20% for this piece of art. He would give her 20% commission, but then she also wanted something like 20% of his commission on top.
Yeah, and so like
she's like, he had tracked her down and come all the way to her house,
right?
At home.
Yeah, so she says, "Well, I have to place a call," and I think there was this moment where.
He's like, I'll stay outside.
Right. He was already playing possum by saying, I'll stay outside. So like, no, come on in. I'll give you a glass of wine or something. And of course, bad things happen to her at that point.
He does play the serial killer really well. He does that like charming. Let's talk about art. Oh, what do you think about this? Blah, blah, blah. And he's very good at like, being welcoming and just laying that trap is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
He plays the charming gentleman card very well. And then obviously during this part of this sequence, which is one thing I forgot, is that I think it's either before this happens or after it says chapter 1.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I just totally... Obviously, the film just seemed to go on and on that I even forgot that it said chapter 1. But I do know during this sequence that obviously he starts to have like a psychological kind of vision.
And then that was the weird thing. Like at first in chapter 1, he did while he was, murdering the woman, he saw the Red Owl. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, oh, is this Red Owl like a mythological thing? Like I thought it was, because it kind of tied into the statue that they were looking at. And I'm like, wow, this Red Owl must be some kind of like, I don't know. I was thinking there was going to be some kind of like
Cult or something.
cult. They were going to have some kind of
Some
spirit.
sort of like supernatural element that would tie into the plot. Well, how I looked at it, when you seen him having this vision of seeing the red owl, I don't know if you have ever watched it, but I was a big fan of the television show Dexter.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this very much reminded me of a similar way of how they dealt with the serial killer and how he gets his
dark passenger.
His dark passenger. And for me, the red owl represented his dark passenger, and it was the one that taunted him into these murders. And when he did finally murder the other auctioneer, the great thing I liked about it is how he killed her and the weapon he used, like this medieval claw kind of glove.
Yeah, it's kind of like what he would use to climb up a rocky thing or something. Or I guess it was more like a bear or something. I don't know. He was trying to.
It was like attached to his hand too, but it also looked like a piece of jewelry almost.
But
it was
it's like
wild
when he murdered her, and you seen how vicious he was, and he was holding her up, and he had it against her neck. And then when you seen her lying there, and you seen the gashes on her neck, I thought was the makeup work. I thought was really well done.
The kill was amazing,
and the kill was well done.
Yeah, I agree. Especially like picking her up and whatnot. That a lot of strength there.
So as it started, I was thinking it was going to be like this for most of the movie. I'm like, oh, it's going to be this like real like thriller serial killer kind of cat and mouse kind of thing, and we see it kind of like goes a little different.
Yeah, I thought the acting between Ruben and Lynn were really good. The two main characters, like it was really, really good. They did a good job with it and made it believable. There was a lot of tension, suspense for a good half of that movie, and then it just kind of started going.
Side note: remember, I recognized the actress, which was really funny because she actually usually has blonde hair. And I started looking at her, acting credits. She does a lot of those like Christmas Hallmark TV movies. So this is completely different than what she's usually doing, like the, rom-coms. I'm coming home. I meet, my ex-boyfriend. We get back together. This was completely different, which I thought was nice because she really acted it well.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, you didn't know which direction that was going to go. And obviously they're on the road to the cabin, this Ruben who she's just met. And you just see little bits, they kind of lay little breadcrumbs that it's going to go in a different direction. Like she's now starting to hear noises. She's now hearing growling. She sees a woman go past the window, and he's the one acting like he's the sane one, and now she's kind of going the other way.
Right.
And that's why I was thinking this has got to be something supernatural was going to happen. Like she was going to be some kind of sacrifice, or who knows.
Yeah, I sat there and I go, and it's like, she's seeing ghosts or whatever, and then like, it's just this point where like he's getting nervous because she's like acting weird and seeing things he's not seeing. He's seeing other shit on his own, but like
he kind of became the normal one.
Yeah.
Seeing them scenes. He went from being a psychopath himself, seeing visions of his dark passenger, the Red Owl, to now looking at her like you're hearing noises, you're seeing things. And then he starts to get spooked. He goes out and looks into the garbage and things, and then she's standing there. And this is the only time I actually jumped watching it, when he's having a conversation with her, and the thing hits the window, and he's like, and it was a bat.
Yeah.
So
they are in the middle of the woods.
Yes. Yeah, it was kind of funny because as she's starting to freak out, you get this sense from him that like, this chick's ruining my vibe. I'm trying to kill this bitch and she's making my day worse. She's acting too weird. I can't kill her right now. And he's like trying to get permission from the Red Owl and everything else. And finally, he's
There wasn't there not some point when they were having dinner and when he was making the dinner, there were times he was talking to them, was saying, "Not yet, it's not time."
yeah, right.
And then he was kind of fighting the urge to do it. And then he sees the red owl and he finally caves, and then they have kind of this little bit of a brawl, which ends in a bloody way as well.
I thought it was interesting. Like, he really played that that psychopathic, abusive type boyfriend really well. Just like the part where they're trying to eat dinner and he's like putting all the blame on her. I made you this nice meal and you can't even appreciate it.
Yeah.
Like, really, in the end, he just wants to kill her, but he's trying to make her feel bad instead of, like, you know, we know he's going to kill her because we've seen what he can do.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like, and then when they do, he does finally get a hold of her with the same glove, like bladed device in his hand. Even when he does the deed to her and kills her, well, you assume she's dead. Like, even the just the blood and the work and it was just, and then obviously strips her off, and then she's in that red lingerie, which kind of matched the blood on her neck, I suppose.
Oh,
now.
yeah, that's really good foreshadowing. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, he does the same things he did to the first girl, and really, she was bleeding a lot. So I'm like, dude, is she dead already? Like, we have another character coming into play here in a minute, or what? Because, like, I'm like, that was fast.
Yes.
Yeah. So she managed to get back up from it, pop him in the head with something. I forget what it was.
It was that piece of.
It was the statue.
The statue, yeah.
Well, we've kind of skipped a part because she starts to get suspicious of him.
Yeah.
And she messages our friend.
Yeah, because she saw like
she saw the statue.
Yeah,
she sees the statue on the table as she walked in, and she's like a curator for a museum or something.
Right.
And she sees the statue and she recognizes it's a piece that she's seen in the museum. So she messages our friend, and there's a part where she's in the bathroom, and she gets a phone call and she answers, and our friend tells her, "You need to get out."
Yeah, because she says the girl that had it was found dead. So
yeah, the girl who had this statue has been found dead, and it's been missing, and the police are still investigating. Yep. And that's when she starts to put the dots together. But then obviously, like, we fast forwarded again, we get to that brawl, and she's lying there. He strips her off, and you think she's dead. And like you said, the amount of blood that came out of her, you would assume she was dead.
Yeah, like, I was surprised.
And then you get a surprise, and she's not actually dead. And she opens her eye, and there's this beautiful shot. And this is what I liked about this film as well: the cinematography and how they did some of the scenes. It's like when she opened her eye and she had a eye that was like bloodshot, and she just whacks him in the head. She just whacks him in the head with the statue, and then next thing you know, the film and the tone of the film changes again.
Yeah, the director paid pretty good attention to detail, was the way the gore and the blood and stuff like that was. So, like, as you pointed out, the bloodshot eye, like that's a good attention to detail with what would happen with trauma of some sort. Even there's a point where we see where he's been popped in the head, like he's got like actual damage to the skull. Like, it's,
that was a little, like, I was like, ugh.
Yeah,
because he's like,
he could literally poke it, you know.
Yeah, he's got obviously fractured skull, broken skull. He's got out that terminal. You know, you can see the brain and everything, and he's poking at it.
And then this is where the movie takes an entirely crazy turn.
It was off the rails.
Yeah. Obviously, there's a lot of good use of color in this film. But now he started diving into whether, this is where the problems come in for me, is that there are times in the second half of the film, I don't know whether he's hallucinating or if she's playing some sort of game with him. It might be a little bit of both. But there's really no clear indication. And then we get what's called the three Furies. And it's basically, as they announced, it was Tisiphone, Electo, and Megaera. And, you know, I think all three represent like his three victims, because one of them is her. in
Yes.
the mask. And I think I have like the photo of her and then one of the others. I think the blonde is from earlier.
Yes, that's I think her name, the girl was the one that he kills in the beginning, the blonde lady.
Yeah.
And I know the actress is called Malin Barr.
Yeah. Alan Sarr. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so she plays I guess the buyer for at the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah, they just did her hair differently when she.
And the third one, I think, is the representation of his first victim. I'm taking.
But that was Leona. Remember
Leona.
the picture that she found, and she asked about Leo. What happened with Leona?
Yeah, and Leona is obviously the one that's got the horns and looks more like a demonic entity.
I thought it was like really interesting when he went to those barrels, like when he was kind of going all over the place, and then he went and he like dug up those barrels where he had put the bodies. That was
that for me was very similar to, like I said, Dexter. Because I think after Dexter season 4, they did season 5 where there was a killer, and one of the main plots of that is that he was putting bodies in barrels and then putting them like in the swamplands. So it very much felt like this could have been a spin-off with another killer from Dexter.
Oh yeah.
But then you're actually seeing the psychological side of it, or rather than just the murder and the investigation side. You're getting to see like the psychological thing. And like you said, when he got hit in the head with that statue, he's clearly going through some sort of brain trauma. And so, like you mentioned, you didn't know if this was part of the trauma he's suffering and he's having visions, he's concussed and everything's just in his mind, or was it actually happening?
Right.
And that was the confusing part about the movie. You didn't know if it was a vision or if he was really getting stalked by these spiritual entities, like take it, these victims. And throughout the scenes, there was some amazing shots and amazing cinematography again. Like, particularly for me, one of the best ones is when he's getting chased by the dog.
Yeah.
This Doberman dog, and then it's got the lady's head transforms onto the dog's head. Another one is with the fireplace.
This is what we like to call oven girl.
Oven girl, yes. And then the oven comes alive and it's trying.
I actually really enjoyed that shot, though. I mean,
I hated it.
Well, no, not the part you have a problem with. I just think her sitting on it was great. Like, I thought that was great.
That was fine, but then when the oven's like stovepipe starts like doing this thing, I'm like
Beetlejuice.
Yeah,
yeah.
It got a little too ridiculous. I couldn't stop laughing. He's like, "What is?" I'm like, "It's just funny. It's taking away from the movie. It's not like."
Yeah.
It went from like an Evil Dead sequence where you're seeing her butt naked lying on this stove, and you can see part of her butt cheek, scarred and
that was good
and bubbling.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, it turns into just oven on acid, I guess, Beetlejuice style. And the effects, I have to say, the special effects in that part took away from the movie, like you say.
Yes.
It kind of made it too comedic at that point. They could have just had her on the stove and see something fly out of the oven at him or something.
I completely agree. That part just took everything and what I liked about the movie, and then you get to this part, and I'm like, it just kind of really, I don't want to say ruined the movie for me, but it took a lot out of the movie. I wish they wouldn't have put that in there because I probably would have liked the movie more.
Yeah, because that's kind of probably sounds weird. That's the lowest point of the movie where it had a great start. The middle was brilliant. Then at the end, they kind of took it out of it kind of took it away from it, which kind of spoiled it in some ways.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, even the ending was a bit of uneventful, really. Like, I don't want to give it away in case people want to watch it, but like, it's just, I was sitting there going, really? That's how it's going to end, like this?
For me, the movie.
That's right.
there's a part where obviously as the plot goes on and he's getting chased by these visions of people, and then he finally sees the red owl's kind of been, I guess, is now been consumed by these demons, and they take the helmet off the red owl, and it's just like eyes and a pumping heart thing.
Yeah,
that confused the hell out of us. But I'm assuming that was
like that either. I was like,
yeah, that was even more uneventful. Like,
I think that was him looking at himself, because I think that was his mask, and that you had to look at himself, but it made no sense. So the second half of the movie are well done, but by the back end, I think they did a lot of things just to create shock value. They did a lot of like scenes that made no sense, that you just had to like, yeah, you're left with more questions than you did answers.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, the balance wasn't there. Like, there was a lot of great ideas in this film, and it was really acted well. As we all agree, the early part of the film and middle, like, were really strong in terms of story. But then it's like you try to get a little bit too cute. So it's like where films, and I know Neko won't totally agree, but films like, Strange Color Your Body Tears or Beyond the Black Rainbow, they're balanced all the way throughout. So whatever weirdness you get at the beginning, you're getting at the end. This film was trying to be too much like, a great thriller to start, and then just start going off into like La La Land for whatever reason.
Well, my feelings for this is the same as probably what I had for the Black Rainbow. I absolutely loved the movie from start, middle, but it was when it got right at the end, I was frustrated with how it ended.
That's how I felt about this too.
That I've got the exact same feelings. I was hoping it was going to go somewhere, because like in the Black Rainbow, if people haven't seen that, it's about like a man that basically, it's like in a futuristic world, and then obviously he's trying to fight the urge to like give into like his darkness, and at the end he embraces it. And then just when you think there's going to be an epic battle between him and the protagonist, this lady, something happens and it just ends the way it ends, and I was left frustrated.
He trips. That's really what it comes down to.
Well, I said he tripped, but then I'm thinking, did she use her psychic abilities, or was he that stupid he just tripped and knocked his head off a rock? And that, I was like, really?
Yeah, I don't think she did on that case. But it was a weird ending. But like, I really love that film. And that part, like that, like ending section of that particular film, like, wasn't big enough to really ruin it for me, really. Although I do get your points about like it just it doesn't fit with the rest of the film.
Well, that's what I feel with this film. Like, the only other good bit I like near the end is because obviously I work within a hospital, and I do see people. I have seen people have come with injuries, and there's one bit that is very realistic that what kind of made us feel uncomfortable, where he starts foaming at the mouth, and he starts having like a seizure, which obviously anybody that has any sort of head trauma like that can cause a seizure. And that really, like, and when you see him foaming at the mouth and all that's happening, that for me was a bit, a bit disturbing, a bit, uncomfortable, because
it was.
But then I just, at the end, you get to the end of the movie where, he's seen all these visions, and then you get to the end and you're wondering what the point of it all is.
I think that's what we felt. We felt like almost like it was incomplete. And the conclusion just didn't give us any closure. Like,
there was no true ending. Like, the ending, like, I think how I took it away with him seeing these visions, he's tried to kidnap this woman, kill her like he has. She's been the one that's gotten away. And then he's had this brain trauma, and he's fighting this brain trauma as well as trying to survive. And I think all these visions is him finally trying to come up and accept his guilt for what he's done. That's how I took it away.
Yeah.
Because she keeps saying, because at the end of the movie, after all these weird shit happens, basically.
Well, yeah, there was a point. See, I thought at one point after she was attacked for the first time, I thought, when she got away, I thought rather than the brain trauma being what was creating the hallucinations, I thought maybe she had drugged him while he was out.
Yeah,
And
that
so
would have been a better plot.
that's what I said. I said that I thought there was going to be this manipulation by her to play games with him, to get him to fall into this trap, which by the end, she kind of does anyway. But it's like we have to take this long route with him just being crazy to get there.
I just think the whole point of it is after she gets away, is all these manifestations and all these visions and crazy shit that went down. It's him with this brain trauma, and he's frightened, he's scared, and he's having these visions, and he's trying to accept his guilt because there's a point where he's standing next to the 3 barrels at the end of the movie, and she's looking at him in the mask, and she said, "Just admit what you are, admit what you've done. You're a murderer, you're a criminal," and he won't say the words.
You're right. Yeah, because she was trying to ask him early on, like, did you really care about me or something, or something along those lines, and he was like, no, or I was going to kill you anyway, or some shit. I forget what it was he said, but
yeah, and he's like talking about like him and the Red Owl are 2 separate people, and he go, he chooses you, I kill you. It's not me, it's him.
Right.
Like that. So it's like the Dark Passenger, like we've mentioned before in Dexter, where he ends up giving in to his urges, but he's blaming it not on himself. He's blaming it on this entity where it's him. And I think the whole point of these visions and all that were him fighting, like he's fighting his guilt. And then, like you see at the end of the movie, he battles with these emotions and with her. Well, you don't know if it is her or if it's just the vision.
Mm-hmm.
If it's still the visions that he's getting, because the next thing you know, spoiler,
her.
You should go from being there in the mask to her just standing there with her neck covered and in
right,
and she's got the robe on, and she's like just looking at him, and he's just lying there in agony, and he's got that device that he was going to kill her, and he just starts going for gold on himself, like stabbing himself.
And that's you bring up an interesting point. Like, if he's having these visions, is he by himself just like going crazy, or is she really there, like taunting him the entire time? Well, that's the other
unclear thing, because there is a point where she's asking him about a bunch of questions, but then is she there only at that point in the end, or was she there at the beginning with barrels? Like, we don't really know exactly.
There's no like firm conclusion. Like, the last time you actually see her as and when she's lying down, and then she wakes up and she's got the blood shot and she hits him in the head with the statue.
Right.
It's after that point you don't know if what you're seeing is all in his head, or is she playing a part in it. Has she tied him up because he's running around half naked at some point, and he's putting bed sheets around him, and then he's looks like someone from the Romans with Caesar and the red robe. And next thing you know, he just ends up next to the barrels on the floor, and he's just going. He's got that device in his hand, and he's just mutilating himself, and he's basically killing himself. And I believe it's because he's finally at the point where he knows what he is, but he just doesn't want to admit it. And I think that's the whole point. He knows he's a murderer. He knows he's guilty of these things, but he just won't admit it to himself.
I thought he was like just wanting to get away from all the vision. I thought he was like, fuck this shit.
He was trying to like.
I thought it was just suicide. I thought he's like, dude, I'm not going through this anymore. I'm just taking myself out.
Well, that's what I've took from it. The whole point after he got hit in the head is he's had to come to terms of who he is, and he just hasn't done it. Yeah. And he still doesn't, because he basically kills himself at the end.
Yeah.
And she's just standing there like, what the fuck of him? What is this? She's just, and even when the credits are going up, he's still
going. Yeah, he's doing that. I'm like, dude, he should have been dead like an hour ago.
I stood there watching the end of the credits, thinking, right, something's going to happen at the end of the credits. And he's just lying in agony going, and she's just like this going,
yeah.
Are you dead yet? Are you dead yet?
Right.
You only see the back of her head, but she's like, are you dead yet? And then it ends, and you're like, and the screen goes black, and you're like, Well, wait, what was all that for?
I think you're right. It's like we're all agreeing the first two parts were really strong, and then the third part just doesn't. What was it for? There's no like conclusion to this story.
Yeah, it just kind of lost its way story wise.
I mean, maybe they needed a part 4 where you could see her.
Well, here's the interesting thing. So, Rotten Tomatoes critics 96% on this film. They really like this film. Audience, however, 59%.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna give our ratings out of 1 out of 10, or out of 10. So we'll start with Neko. Where do you rate this?
Minus the stove coming alive like Beetlejuice. If I take that completely out of my equation, because it did take me completely out of the movie. And I said, he was looking at me. I'm laying on the couch laughing like a maniac. I'm like, this is so ridiculous. It's ruined the movie. Let's pretend that didn't happen. Let's just pretend she gets her butt cheeks burned. I would give this a 6. Adding the stovepipe takes it down to like a 4 because then the ending just keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse. But it was just so bad, that part, that it made me pay attention to everything I hated about the movie. So I'm just going to take that part and pretend it didn't happen, and I will give it a 6 because the first 2 parts are so strong.
Okay. Kevin?
I think I'm probably in agreement with Neko. I think I would give it a 6. And like what Neko said, like we've all said, the first 2 parts are very strong. I loved the cinematography. I loved the acting, despite some of how it went on. I thought the acting was very strong in this movie.
Yes.
I thought the makeup work, the special effects work was brilliant, apart from the Beetlejuice scene. And obviously, you see, the first two halves are very strong, but by that last half, it's too much of a jumbled mess. You don't know what's going on. It's like a jigsaw puzzle that you just can't fix together. And then you see, like I said, the first 2 parts had a strong part, and you knew what the plot was, but it had no real full conclusion, or you didn't get the answers that you probably wanted to have. Like, what was the motive? What was going on, basically? So, yeah, probably a 6.
Okay. Yeah, and that's right along with what the audience is at right now. I don't think it's quite as bad as that. I mean, I'm pretty close. I rated it a 7 out of 10. I'm not gonna ever watch it again, but I do wish that they would have just gone ahead and let her be the one that was manipulating him at the end, rather than, you could use all the colors and the craziness. I don't mind that, but at least let her be the one that's directing what's going on with him, rather than this like no idea what's going on. Like who's controlling him? Is it supernatural? Is his brain trauma? Is it drugs? Like, I don't know. Like, that's the thing I kept trying to figure out the rest of the movie.
Like I say, there's too much. You don't know what's going on. There's too much like ups and downs. Like, it's like I said, it's a jigsaw puzzle you kind of fix together. It has no like definitive ending, and you don't really get like a definitive answer what the point of it all was.
Right.
But I will say this, another positive I will say is the director, because I'm like yourselves, I did watch Jacob's Wife, and I thought he did a brilliant job with that.
I loved that.
That was a fun movie.
He's only made 3 films to date. This is his 3rd one, and I do think he is quite a creative director.
Yeah, you can see he's trying to go in like a David Cronenberg or David Lynch type direction with his directing, but he's still working his way there.
Yeah, but I would probably say, because of his effort, he's in the middle. He's someone I think I would watch again and look out for film wise, because like you say, 3 films in, he's had 1 really good film.
This is like pretty good.
This is pretty good, but it becomes middle of the road by the end, though.
Right. It just starts kind of good, and then Because like when we played the trailer before we watched it, and she was like, "Yeah, this looks like this might be interesting." We're like, "All right, let's dive into it."
I will give props to the director for being creative. I just wish he'd give her a better ending. Everything's good about it except that last half.
All right. Well, you have any ideas what you're gonna got for us next time around, or are you still thinking it over?
I haven't got a clue, but I'm sure I'll come up with something interesting. I see what my mood takes us.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining us again for another good episode of this, and of course, thank you to Neko for joining us this time around. She might be there next time. I don't know, but it's always fun to have her. And for the rest of you watching, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Go out and support KLE Entertainment headquarters on Facebook. You have your YouTube going yet or no?
Not yet. Like I say, I'm tied up with heading to Chicago in a couple of months' time. So once I get there, go to G Fest, I've got a few concerts and events I'm going to. Once I come back from that, that's when I'll probably try and get the ball rolling and see where it takes us.
I hear you. Yeah, we got a few more interviews coming up and trying to sort those out and get those arranged. Top 5, of course, I do every week. But yeah, outside of that, not a whole lot going on. But thank you all for checking this out, and we will see you next time.